Hello, welcome back. It's another episode of me pissing around with my dad's old Series IIa 88-inch. Enjoy. Before we go too far, can you subscribe? If you think you're subscribed, can you check? If you're not subscribed, why not? For crying out loud. There's a huge proportion of my views come from people that are not subscribed. Now, it's possible you're watching it on your telly and you are subscribed on your computer, etc., etc., etc. However, my subscriber count seems to have died off again. Whether I am the SB word that we're not allowed to use on YouTube, because apparently it doesn't exist, but the algorithms do not seem to be pushing this channel at all. Some people have said it's down to the beer and me talking nonsense episode. Some people have said that I might have used the wrong word somewhere. Anyway, just double check you're subscribed. Here we have the differential out of that Series 3 axle that was outside my workshop. It's a doozy. Right, okay, absolutely nothing wrong with it as far as I can see. I'm not even going to bother taking it apart. I've taken it off the casing because I wanted to replace the gasket, which is exactly what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to lob it back onto the casing before I pressure wash the casing off. The majority of this is actually, it's pretty good. I'm happy with it. The only thing it hasn't got is it hasn't got the reinforcing brace along here, which I guess I could put on, but I don't think Dad's really going to be putting an enormous amount of mileage or weight onto his Series Land Rover anymore. Even the diff pan on this thing is pretty good. You probably didn't want to tip that out into there, really, did you, Richard? I'll tip that out later on. Oh, well, that's polluted now anyway, bollocks to it. Right, I'm not having a tinkle, by the way, folks. It's just... oh, you dickhead. Anyway, you'll notice that the lower part of the spring with the mounting plate on it is in good order. There's a little bit of corrosion around where the U-bolts go, but nothing like what exists on the other one. All looking really good. Even the top bump stop mounts are good, which is fantastic. And then, right, here's my dad's old axle now. So I thought, well, do you know what? I'm going to get the diff out of it and probably just scrap the rest. The main reason being is I think this has been in the sea a few times, this axle, not under my dad's ownership. But I don't know where the axle came from. As you can see, it is seriously compromised. I mean, not a little bit compromised. Seriously. There's not even the mounting on that side to support it steady on the top of the spring. So God knows how it did. I knew that the back axle was a problem on this car about a decade ago, and I've done the square root of fuck all about it. And like I say, Dad gets this car serviced elsewhere. Otherwise I might have noticed this, but just everything on this thing is fucked. An enormous amount of sand. I wonder if Devon wants its sand back. So I don't know. I honestly don't know where the axle came from. It doesn't match in any way the condition of the front axle. The chassis was, by the way, in a similar state of dereliction before we swapped it over, and that was done a fair few years ago now. But it's not unusual to find a series axle that will collapse under its own weight when dropped from like 4 inches when they've reached the end of their life. Yeah, so I think really this is for the scrap bin, this one. I'm going to get the diff out of it because there might be something salvageable in the diff, but there's a fair amount of lash in that. And Dad did say it was quite noisy. Quite noisy. God help us. Right, when I was taking the Series 3 diff apart, all I really did was cut the nuts off the bolts on the inside edge of the rear axle flange, Fnarr. And that's left me then with the complete hub, stub axle, drive shafts and so forth. The brake back plates actually look way better than the ones that are on my dad's, or come off my dad's car, and I've got a new set of 10-inch drums anyway. So I'm inclined to make up one good axle out of these two, and that's certainly the diff that I'm going to use. There was very little backlash in that, so I think I'm not even going to bother doing anything. I'm just going to lob it straight in. And once it's in, then I can pressure wash the axle casing off, treat the rust on it, and yeah, paint it. Drive shafts are out, and very good. They'll do the job. That said, I mean, they came out of a back axle from a Series 3 petrol Land Rover, short wheelbase, so they're probably fairly unstressed. We've looked at that already. So I then started to pull these hubs apart. There's one that is about to come apart. Nothing yet seized on them. The back plates are certainly usable, but I'll have a look at those in a second. Then this is the right hand unit. Drive plate, good. Hub, good. Bearings, good. Brakes, seized, solid. So it looks like all I really need to do is replace the brakes, give it a damn good clean up, and put it together. How about that? This is the right hand rear back plate from my dad's car, and you can see it's very much like the front back plates. It is shagged, properly shagged. So the only thing that's really salvageable off that, I think, is going to be the hockey stick. I'm going to replace the wheel cylinders because I don't know how old they are. I could end up resealing them. I'll take them off and see what they look like. But all the fixings on the back are heavily corroded, so I suspect they are as old as the Ark. So then what I did was I looked at the new, and this is the front right hand 10-inch back plate that I put together, which is why it's still got the flexi on there, the one that I've replaced for the 11-inch twin leading, and it looks exactly the same. So we compare the adjuster to the adjuster, the orientation of the holes, the overall shape of the thing, and as far as I can see, the back plate is the same, front and back, for right and for left. Just don't mix them up. So this one's very clearly, sorry, that one I've not labelled up, but I've taken it from the pile that came off the right hand side of the axle. That one's been marked up as right hand. This one here, which came off the Series 3 axle, has been marked up as right hand. And again, we can see the adjusters are all on the same side. When we look at the other side, we can see that the layout of the springs is the same. The position of the hockey stick, the tennis racket, is exactly the same. So I'm comfortable that those two rears, right-hand rears, are good. The problem I've got is that while I can use the back plate from the front, and the only reason I'm going to do that is because it's already painted, it's going to save me some time. If you look at the wheel cylinder, you'll notice that the exit position on the wheel cylinder is different. So I thought, I wonder if they're different because they've got different part numbers. Yes, they are. So if we look at, I have got here this part, which is a wheel cylinder 243302G, G for OE quality right hand rear. Take this out, okay, and I can extract one of the pistons from it, somewhat cack-handedly because I've got my gloves on. Let's take my glove off, it'll be easier. Dun, 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 dun. There's a glove. Right, there's the cylinder, so I can take that off. There'll be a spring in here, so just be careful. That comes out. There we are, one piston. And here is the piston I took out of my dad's back plate. So on this I've already extracted one piston, and they are the same. If I then, that's the old one, that's the new one. If I then, because I'm going to pop that back together again because that can go back on. If I then find the wheel cylinder, this is the front wheel cylinder. Okay, this one's from the front left hand. So what we're now looking at is this bastard here. And you can already see it is substantially fatter. There's a substantial difference. But if I take the piston out of one of the front single leading shoe cylinders, you can see the piston is a world different. Let's put that up there. Where's that other piston gone? What have you done with it, Richard? There. Back, front. There you go. I don't know if you are confused by all of that, but I certainly am. So, what I've basically done, got myself the Series 3 parts catalogue rather than the Series 2A parts catalogue, because I've now got Series 3 front brakes on my front brakes up until June, single cylinder, and from, we'll go to the back to the drum situation, Richard, where are we? Drums front, oh yes, front 109 4-cylinder except 1 tonne and 88 from July 1980, twin leading shoes, which is what I've got on the car. So then what I really need to do is be looking at the rear brakes from July 1980. Rear brakes from July 1980. Oh, right, so the part numbers are the same as the front pre-1980. So we've got 243296. If I go back a page, this is a well-thumbed parts manual, this. We have got here front and rear up to June, and I've got there 243296, 243296 front right, and that then equates to rear right. So I've rebuilt the back plates now with the original single leading shoe fatter cylinders from the front of the 2A. So when I'm confusing you again, aren't I? Before I put the twin leading shoes on the front, I had a pair of drums, a pair of back plates, which were built up with the correct pre-July 1980 single leading shoe cylinders. They're now on the back. So the brake back plates now look a bit like that. Hoo-hoo! And those aren't called hockey sticks, they're called tennis rackets, you tool. Anyway, moving on. Parts manual was an absolute saviour here, and it was pointed out to me by a couple of the commenters, followers on the last video. Now, the other thing I was aware of was the master cylinder. So I thought, oh, I don't know, because I was looking for one of these. The brake pedal bracket with the servo. Buy a brand new servo, buy a brand new master. Couldn't find one. They're like rocking horse shit. Does the Defender pedal box fit on a series bulkhead, would be my question to you good folk. So then I look at the master cylinder. So there it is. We've got single, so it's a brake master cylinder, 88-inch 4-cylinder. It is the from July 1980 I'm looking for, which is number 2. So there we are. I've ordered a new master cylinder, 905969128, rather than the smaller diameter. And then I've also ordered up the spacer, just in case we didn't have one here, because the spacer is marked as from July 1980. So I've ordered the spacer, I've ordered the master. Both of those came from P.A. Blanchard. Thank you very much, P.A. Blanchard. You guys do good work. Now, servo is the other thing I do want to get sorted out on this thing. I know I've just ordered the wrong master cylinder if I want a servo, but I want to get the thing back on the road again. So what I was trying to find out, because this master has been leaking as well, by the way, it's all gummed up in there. Can I get a Defender pedal box with the servo, and will it fit onto a series bulkhead? Question. Because if I can get the pedal box and the Series 3 from July 1980 master cylinder fits into it, then I've got the servo situation sorted out. So all of this lot's going to come off to refurb. In fact, there is my box from P.A. Blanchard's. Look at that proper old bit of weapons grade packaging there. God knows how old this master is. I haven't even considered that. I'll double check it. There's a seal for the rear diff. Oh. There it is. Good lord. There's the master. There's the spacer. So I'm ready now to sort the top end of the brake system out. And as I've already pointed out in another video, or another section of this video, I've adjusted the brake lines such that the bleed nipple is now at the top, just to make life fucking easy, because otherwise it is a pain in the arse and people don't understand it. So I've run a line from the flexi to the bottom cylinder, and then from the bottom cylinder standard up to the top cylinder, and then I've got bleed nipple on the top. We'll see how it works. Right, the only thing I need off these original wheel hubs, so these are the ones that came off the 2A, the only thing I need on a pair of them is the locking tab, one dust gap, because I just could not get the bastard off and I ended up going a bit biblical with it, seals, gaskets, and the stub axle seat that I need to get for those. That's pretty much it. They will then bolt up to those new back plates and also that Series 3 axle casing. Right, I'm going to go home and order some bits up, I think. I've been doing a bit more exploring of this axle casing, and I decided to chop a little bit away in the same area as rotted right the way through on the other axle. And you can see it's starting to do the same thing here. So I'm going to cut these two bump stop mounts off, because they're fairly easy to weld back on again. Just replace those. More disappointingly, I was cleaning up the diff pan thinking, oh, this is all, oh, look how shiny steel that is. Oh, that's so beautiful, that. Oh, you bastard. Yes, so I'm going to cut the diff pan off as well. Weld the new diff pan off. If anyone's got a Series 2 or 3 short wheelbase 88-inch rear axle casing, that'll be useful. This one is looking like it, I mean, it's salvageable, but it's not the best, it's not the worst. The plug comes out, by the way, but I'm going to get the diff pan off it. It's just a case of I tend to cut around the edge on the diff pan and then grind away the weld until the flange Fnarr comes off, and that then gives me a nice flat surface to weld the new diff pan to. And then obviously just cut down the side on those and they should come off. And then, I was rather hoping to get the diff into this, strap it onto the axle, because I've given it a bit of a clean, strap it onto the axle, and get this thing so that it's movable again. Alas, thwarted once again. Here you can see the diff casing and you can see the diff pan and how that line of weld there joins the two together. So that's easy enough to get apart. I cut through the two sections, and nowhere near as bad as the other axle, but it still needs doing. So I shall clean those areas up properly, and then I'll order new bump stops, new diff pan, and yeah, there's a reasonable chance we can get it back together again, I reckon. Oh, fuck's sake. Nothing's ever easy, is it? I've got myself a whole bucket full more grinder sparks, which I've managed to salvage from this axle. This end, not too bad. You can see where there's been corrosion has eaten in this area here, and also a little bit over there, sorry, a little bit there. So what I'm going to do is just basically build a pool of weld up on each side. I don't think there's going to be too much problems with heat distortion on this. It's a little bit worse on this side, so I'm going to go over this with a zip wheel rather than the grinding wheel. Again, you can see there's quite a big chunk of rust been taken out there and here, and that is more or less flat straight across the top. And then I've also cut off the remnants of the old diff pan. That's all out. It's nice, isn't it? It's going to have to get a proper good wash after. I mean, look at all the grinding sparks that are in there. And then we've got two new things that are going to go back on here. We're coming to my nice tidy workshop. Oh, there we are, one of these. Oh yes. Came from DDS Metals, rear differential cover. Right, let's get that out of the bag. Right, so with this, I really want to kind of get it so that it lays absolutely flat. And at the moment, I've got a high spot here and a high spot there. But I think once they've been ground away, literally just here and here. In fact, I can see that one there. That was probably much the same. And I think it's where this rib runs along the back of the axle case. I'll be able to weld that on there. It's not too much of a problem. Obviously you want to make sure that you get the crown wheel component in the right location. You get that wrong, you'll be swearing mercilessly. And then I can clean up the edges of this and weld the bastard in place once it's sitting flat. And then the other thing that I need to play with. That can go up there for a second next to my very hot angle welder. Sorry, angle grinder. Angle welder. These have also come from DDS Metals, and these are the bump stops. So if I rotate this around, oh, you're still warm. Rotate that around and get this out of the bag. One-handed, of course. And that wants to weld on pretty much over the top of where the spring mount is, but I want to build these areas up before I weld these on. And I think then we will have this axle, once it's been painted, will be absolutely perfect. Assemble it, paint it. At the moment it's just got like a 2-pack epoxy primer on it. After I derusted it, I didn't derust anywhere around here because it was pointless, because I was going to go berserk with the angle grinder. 2-pack epoxy went on there. Yeah, I think we'll be okay with this. And I can paint it properly. Right, I'm going to do that bit now, because otherwise that's just going to bug me. Quite nice, bloody great big thick piece of steel here. I mean, they're already a couple of quid off DDS Metals, and it makes sense just to, do you know what, you guys have put all the effort into bending that piece of metal for me. I'll have it. Well, there's the diff pan welded on. Pretty easy stuff. Just making sure I have good penetration and a nice solid weld. Can't see any light through it. So when I weld these things on, I will put a couple of good slugs each side, and then at the 9 o'clock and the 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock positions, and then bash the steel in to make sure it is a properly snug fit. And I think that's going to work. I'm happy enough with that. Then I've built up the weld in these locations where it started to rot through. Huge great slugs of weld on there. And then I put some zinc primer down, and I'm about to weld these two chappies into place. Thank you, Mr. Gravity. Right, so that can go on there. There's no real exact science to this. I tend to position them directly above the spring mount and make sure they're sort of level, really. You probably don't really want to be sitting on the bump stop, but they're there ready to build the axle up. So with those in place, I can now weld those on. I don't really need a huge amount, so I have a couple of big slugs front and back, and then there you're there. Do that again, Richard. Right, and then I can start putting this thing back together again. So we're going to need another gasket, and then the diff can go on, which is all ready and waiting. So over here, it's the diff that actually come off it. There it is, under there, in good order. So then as soon as that's on, then I can paint it. Paint it, stick it on the springs, build up the hubs, build up the brakes, put it back on 4 wheels again. Yes! One minor anomaly here. So I've adjusted the brakes so that the bleed nipple is at the top. What I hadn't figured out, though, of course, is because we are now using Series 3 brakes, my Series 2 front brake jobbies don't work, purely because the thread at this end is too short. It wants to be one of these lines where you've got equal amount of thread at each end. This is a UNF fixing. So I shall swap that brake line out for this one, and I think it's going to be the same length. It's a little bit shorter. I hope it's going to fit. Well, we're going to find out in a minute. Bearing in mind the damper is still at its furthest extent, so this is the highest the car is ever going to get. Yeah, I still haven't sorted the dampers out because I've just been busy doing other stuff. Right, let's get on and weld this bastard. And I can paint that tomorrow. Right, and then after all of that, I picked up this little beauty yesterday in Basingstoke. Very nice. It is a good early axle. Got some oil leaks on it, they all do that, sir. I'm going to strip down, replace the nose seal, take the drums off, probably use the back plates that I've got ready with the other diff, because I've not actually put them on yet, they're over there. So I can bolt those back plates straight up to this diff. And yeah, actually looks alright, looks really good. I didn't pay a lot for it either, 100 quid. So, absolute bargain. Thank you so much to the eBay trader. Sorry, I didn't get your name, I'm sorry, sir. But he's got my details, so he'll probably come back now and comment on this video saying, ah, yes, nice to meet you. So, yeah, that doesn't need any of the work, really. And it can go straight on.